I have to admit, this is the most exciting time of the day today. And okay, and this is really hard to top because for me personally, not only did I talk to an amazing amount of people today, and I know Scott was talking to an amazing amount of people today, we both have been we've had fulfilling conversations. Then we turn around and we get to hang out with Ray and the Ray Bunch this morning. Then the day went by so fast, and there were so many hangouts that were on my schedule to watch that many of them are in the replay mode because we were preparing for our show. I snuck in a little bit of time to see the new and exciting rule-breaking ideas today, and boy, did that pump me up. So what did I do after that? I got myself a cup of tea, I have a glass of water, and cheers to everybody that's here with whatever you are choosing to drink. Let's run the open, and we'll see you on the other side. Like, can you actually
You're taught to be unselfish, to give of yourself, and as a woman, I think we have a different perspective than the men. We give to our children, we give to our husbands, we give to our parents, we give to our friends, and then we forget sometimes to take care of ourselves, and I am completely...
Well, this is very funny because this is the first season, and this is starting off almost like the first season that we did a year ago, but we're going to try it again. We're using some new technology, and so we'll just give it one more try. And welcome, everyone. Here we go.
You know, what do we mean by the supreme unselfishness? I'm telling you, that is what this whole season is going to be about. So Scott and I did a little reconnaissance, and not only did we spend the entire summer talking about this, okay, so you know what happens when you get me and Scott talking. We just talk and we grow these great big ideas. And Scott, what do you think about what we're doing tonight before I just kind of ramble and ramble and ramble?
Well, we've retooled ourselves, and we are trying to trailblaze. We are trailblazing our second season. You are the one who came up with the me first, the ultimate unselfishness. And the more we've explored these nooks and crannies, the deeper and more interesting the topic becomes. We've had a couple of private hangouts on air with many of our the people who follow us and who engage with Just Plus Scott Plus You show, and we'll be featuring some of those clips during today's show as we introduce the season's topic.
Beautiful. And you know, the thing that gets me the most excited is how we're starting our season, because it's not just let's just jump back in with a guest and see what's going on. Just like Scott said, we spent some time, we had some hangouts, and we are going to share just a few of the experts. Well, they are all experts, but I was going to say excerpts tonight, because what we are going to be doing, we are going to be tying everybody's thoughts and ideas about this topic, this supreme unselfishness, and what that means, how we look at it, double standards in the world, our approach to love, our choices to be adversarial or not, whatever those might be, how we show up in the world right here, right now. We're going to be using those thoughts and ideas throughout our entire season. So be on the lookout, because a little bit of a sneak peek, we will be having more conversations like that. And if you are interested in participating in one of those, answering some question that might or might not relate to this season, but definitely will turn into Scott treatments that will be used somehow in conjunction with the Just Plus Scott Plus You show, you are the Y in the JSY. Scott, how about if we go to that first clip? What's on tap for us?
You know, a number of themes came up while we were discussing it with others, and one of them is that sometimes if life is easy and going along, then you don't have to think about it. But when things start getting tough, then what do you do then, and what role does selfishness play then? So let's see what Lainey has to say about it.
What do you do? What does it feel like? Can you actually, in life, not in a critical moment, but in life as a whole, can you, will you, do you put yourself first? And what does that look like in the philosophy that you bring to the world?
I was thinking about how we're raised, and we're raised as little kids to share. Share your toys, share your food, share your this, share your that, and you're taught to be unselfish, to give of yourself. And as a woman, I think we have a different perspective than the men. We give to our children, we give to our husbands, we give to our parents, we give to our friends, and then we forget sometimes to take care of ourselves. And I am completely 100% guilty of that. I mean, I could raise all my hands and my toes, and it didn't hit me until I'd had a tragedy in my life that said, oh my gosh, who am I? What am I doing? What do I want to do? Who is Lainey? At 26 years old, I had to go back and redefine my life. I didn't know who I was. I mean, I thought I did, and I was living as if I did, but I had given myself to everybody else's whims and desires. Then I had to sit back and go, holy crap, I have no idea who I am. And from there, it was a redefining moment that said, I really do need to take care of myself. What do I want in my life? Who do I want to become? And there's nothing wrong with taking care of yourself first. And I know there's lots of books that I've read about how women, we've got to kind of step back and say, we have to take care of ourselves, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, how can we take care of others?
You're absolutely right. We are told to share. We are told to give. We are our best gift. Our service to others is really important, yet it can't be infinite. Nothing is infinite. And I would go so far to say, this might get a little bit of a reaction from everybody here. I would say that life is conditional. Everything in life is conditional because we have a choice. And I do include love in that, by the way. Love is conditional. We choose to love or not. We choose to give our attention or not. We choose to do something or not. And that's the beauty of life. And it throws a little bit of a wrench in how we might look at things and what our stories are and what that means for us to fit into the world. You know, that makes me think, in the grand scheme of things, I'm listening to Lainey, and when she said those words the first time, sitting in a conversation that I got to participate in with her, I was really moved, and I'm really moved again, because this is a really hard topic. Most of the time, it takes some sort of hardship for us to realize the grace and the wisdom and the fact that we actually have what it takes inherently within us. Those are their tests of how we move forward. And it's really interesting to go, okay, so we can give so much to our detriment. And I think as a society and as a social community and as social businesses, we're told that that's the path. What we're not told that is equally important is that we need to have some boundaries too. Where would you take that, Scott?
Well, the whole issue of growing up, I don't think that we know exactly how to do this when we're born, and as we go through high school and we're kicked out of the house and we're learning, the rules of the road are presented to us, right? And they are they're given. And it's how we respond to it. So one of the great lessons is society tells us that we ought to be unselfish and giving and look out for others. And if you do that, then you're following the golden rule or something like that. And yet, if people follow that scripture and they deplete themselves, then at the end of the day, where are they going to be? So you're right. Things are conditional, and there is a self-awareness that we need to know where we need to be with that, Jess.
And Daniel L. Davis shared with us, unselfishness, wisdom is not an easy topic, and we really agree. And this is something that we want to take the whole season to explore. For those of you that are just tuning in, this is the Jess plus Scott plus you show. We are talking about our season 2 theme, which is the supreme unselfishness, putting ourselves first. I'm Jessica Dewell, and this is Scott Scowcroft. I'm going to get that right, and it's going to roll off my tongue someday, Scott. Scowcroft. I'm going to just have to practice.
I think I've just got a loop for the Christmas reel.
I love it. I love it. So I am interested then in jumping in because we had so many great clips. What if we take a minute and let's go to the next insert and chat about that for a minute?
You know, I just love Em and John's, and we had a morning and then we had an afternoon private hangout on air, and I was just so pleased that Ammon shared with us one of the books that he said changed his life, and it really brings up some interesting thoughts that I have in terms of if you're very wealthy, then is it that you are able to be selfish or magnanimous, and what's the difference between the two? So let's first of all hear what Ammon has to say, and then that'll be good food for conversation between us and with those who are in the comment stream, either on the event page or on YouTube. So here we go.
And there was a book that actually changed my life. And funny enough, it was a science fiction book, not a great meaningful work. It was Robert Heinlein, a book of short stories, and in it there's a short story called The Man Who Sold the Moon. And I had the same kind of impression of businesses and businessmen that a lot of people do, fat cats just after everything for themselves. But this was a story where a businessman was the hero, and he achieved incredible things because he had the resources, because he built up the connections, because he had this persuasion and connections, and most of all, money and ability to move people. The same things that he'd done to, get people to back his business was what he could use to get them to back any other mission. And I think people like Bill Gates have shown us that that still exists today. That if you can succeed in business, you can be a huge, huge champion for charity and charitable works as well. So that, for me, was a really pivotal book. And if anyone is struggling with feeling selfish and not being able to tie this in with why to be good at business, please go and read that book. It's an old one, but it really is a good one. And it can change your perspective.
I have to say, I read that. I know exactly the story you're talking about. I read it in the 80s.
Now, I'm not going to tell you how old I was in the 80s, first of all. Second of all, I find things, I find this stuff really exciting to think about because there are some common themes through time that we tend to see repeated around this topic. And the fact that Ammon and Pam, having read that book, both illustrate that there are these conversations that we come back to. And why is that? We're searching. We're trying to figure out our own truth, we're trying to understand what the world means to us. And I gotta tell you, I don't know about you, Scott, but when I'm thinking about all of the stuff that I get every day and all of the amazing conversations with all of the great people out there trying to make a positive difference, it's really, really overwhelming. And how do we think about using the influence that we have? Because, by the way, and I said this earlier today, and I'll say it again, and I'll probably say it again on another day, we all have influence. How we choose to use it or accept that we have it is up to us.
Yeah. Well, and that's precisely the point. I'm really conflicted by Ammon's point of view, because simply because someone has a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to utilize it in a proper or a philanthropic way, and that is so subjective. It's what is right for me may not. You and I might get into quite an argument, and one of the rules of G+ is that you try and stay away from politics. So one of the ideas for democracy for me is that if the system is such that not everyone can become extraordinarily wealthy so that they can be philanthropic. You can pool all of your resources together so as a society you can serve the greater good. So I
Here's
think
a
there's
great
a real
comment.
conflict.
And here's a great comment. The idea that Stephanie Sims shares. Love the discussion about how money and influence can be used for good. We still have to know how to use them. And she's going to put The Man Who Sold the Moon on her reading list.
Sounds good.
Have you read that, Scott? I hadn't I read it once a long time ago.
Kristen Drysdale, who was in our Hangouts, read it. You've read it. I've not read it. So I think that is probably a good one to put on my list as well. Who knows? We might even we had a we had books that we reviewed last year, and we're going to have people. We had people in the film strip to talk about it. Maybe we should do something like that this year as well, and that might be a good candidate.
I'm in agreement with you. We come up with so many ideas, even on air. What are we going to do?
And you just know who's going to be in the. Ammon's going to have to be in the film strip for that one. He
can't absolutely,
even if it's 3:15 in the morning for him, right?
Oh well, that's exactly right. Sometimes he stops by on our live recording.
Here is one of the most interesting conversations we had that day. I just kind of innocently talked about something about, well, is there a selfishness? Is there a gender basis towards selfishness? And I can't even remember what the question was, but the response was so interesting that I'm really looking forward to sharing it with our audience. So here's Evie and Lainey, and we'll go from there. I'm wondering if there is new ground that is being tread with women taking the stance, me first, because that's the supreme unselfishness. That's different than what your mothers and your grandmothers were told when they were growing up.
My grandmother specifically said to me, honey, if you don't take some time for yourself in the morning, that's what I've been doing for the last 90 years. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize you did that, Grandma, because I've only ever seen her be completely servant to everyone, absolutely everyone. So I've never seen that time in her morning, obviously, because it was her time. So when she said that to me, it was like a go, a pass, you may. And I owned it. And the last year, I own it big time.
I think women always did what they wanted to do, but more under the umbrella, under the husband. There is a reason why we say behind a strong man is always a strong woman. They were the public face, but looking at my grandma, looking at my mom, looking at my family, they've always more or less done what they wanted to do and wanted to accomplish behind the public mirror of the husband. It's becoming now more and more out into the public where women live and do and say what they want to do without that public view of the husband, where it's really the woman itself. I don't think that actually in the doing itself that there has been a big change. We just never seen it because you had this public mirror.
And the only thing that I would add to that is I saw my aunts, my grandma, all my grandmas, and my mom, and my friend moms take time for themselves. But from the outside world, outside of my house, I don't think anybody else saw them take that time. And so it was very much a double standard almost.
Our core foundation of who we are as women hasn't really changed. Our need to take care of ourselves and our self-awareness is still there. It's now just like, where do we land in this public sphere of taking care of ourselves? And I think that there's a lot of women that still don't take care of themselves. They get caught up in the, I've got to take care of my kids, I've got to take care of my husband, I've got to take care of my aunt or my uncle or whomever. Work is calling, I've got to work, I've got to work, I've got to work, I've got to work. And we've let other things consume us instead of us consuming ourselves in that sense and going internally and saying, I've got to stop. Because really in the end, what's the most important thing? Is your job going to be your savior down the road of, your life? Is it your end all be all? Is it your end all be all for your sanity? So, I think a lot of us get into this place where we've got to do, we feel guilty, we feel pressured, But those things aren't helping us necessarily mentally overcome anything. They're just pressures and forces that are kind of blocking us in. I don't even know if I'm like making. I know what I'm trying to say, but I'm like I don't know if I'm really saying it the right way.
No, you're doing fine.
Something that stands out to me in those particular conversations is a little bit of when we don't think we're taking time for ourselves or we're running ragged. And by the way, yes, this particular conversation and comment was geared towards the feminine, but I do believe this applies for both the masculine and the feminine, is what happens if we slow down? What do we see? And in the sense that, are we afraid of what we're going to see, or are we even going to know what to do with ourselves in the moments of stillness, or the fear that we might not find stillness? And so I'm wondering if some of that plays into why we don't stop and why we do overextend, and so we make sure no matter what there's no time for self-reflection. There's no time to really think too hard about it because we've decided these other things out there are priorities.
Yeah, if life is so painful for you that you have to distract yourself, if know thyself, and if there's no reflection, then that's safe. You can kind of skate through life kind of superficially that way, and I guess there's a selfishness in that. This clip had some resonant meaning for me as well because I thinking back on my own family, and man, my mom was just the best mom you'd ever want to see. She was just loving, and she took care of my dad, and she took care of the kids, and she was genuinely happy. And then when my dad died, you know, she just picked up and became the wild and wonderful person she was before she got married. And she got she moved to another location. She had part-time jobs. She was just a real blast. And I think that this is probably true in a lot of households. What is visible on the inside is not necessarily, what is visible from the outside is not necessarily what's going on in the inside. And women are having just more emancipation and power than the, the reputation than the reputation that they have. And that was a little bit of an insight. Am I overstating the case?
Okay, I'm going to come back to this for just a minute because I would say yes and no, and I have a lot of thoughts. We can make a whole show just out of that comment that you just made, Scott. We should write that down. I would say that let's just leave it at that and let everybody wonder. Tell us what you think. I do want to pipe in with a quote from Roxanne Davenport. She shares, could be like fight or flight. Either you take what you have been giving, fighting with your gloves on, or you, hopefully, don't let it bring you down. And I find that very interesting because with the amount of information that's inundating us all the time and our choice to receive it and the desire, unconsciously or consciously, to always be on the go, puts us in always fight or flight. And it's really hard to take stock of where we are or what we're doing when we're always on and we always have a little rush of that extra adrenaline. And we're always spread so thin that we need something to bring us down in the evenings, or we need something to pump us up during the day, or even rev our engines first thing in the morning. In our house, we call that go juice. Well, it has another name. It's bulletproof coffee and bulletproof tea. But still, what's the engine revving?
But on the other hand, you have someone who doesn't. I mean, society is just really demanding nowadays. We have more things to go to. You don't send a kid out to the backyard anymore to play. You have to drive them to soccer. You have to essentially escort them in at least many places in this country. It's no longer a single household, income bearing household. You have to have both parents working. A lot of single parents out there as well. It isn't until you retire that you can really settle back and not be too busy, wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you say, Jess?
Yes. I would say. And I was making a note, so I only heard half of what you were saying, and I'll be completely honest with you. My brain was...
Well, I was actually doing. I know that you make a differentiation between being busy and
I do.
purposefulness, and I was giving you an opportunity to chastise me.
Well, thank you. Now that you let me do it and set it up all over again, the whole world gets to see. You're right. I'm anti-busy, and I'm pretty sure you'll hear about that a lot too over time. One of the things, when I think of busy, I think filling the time, and is that really productive? Because just because I'm busy does not mean I'm actually making strides. I could be going like this, or I could be going like this. And just like, and sometimes it's the screwdriver or the wrench or whatever tool you've got, that bigger torque makes you work less, or the gear on your bike makes you work less to get you where you're going. And so when I hear the word busy, I think lack of leverage. And are we using our brains and our environment and our colleagues and our connections to leverage things so that the work that we do is actually productive? We can be busy and productive. Most of the time, though, we say we're busy, it's like we can't really take on anything else. When in reality, if we have a full life, we're always choosing. We're always choosing. And you might have a different word for it, Scott, and everybody that is tuning in. You may have a different word. Oh, but I do have a quote right here. Bill Boyer, just say no to busy.
Well, that's good. Hi, Phil. And that's one of the themes that has cropped up in the last couple of months as well, and that is at some point there's delegation. At some point there's figuring out how to incorporate others within the task that you need to do so that you play to your strengths and then others are able to do the collaboration.
And it comes down to conversation. And in said conversation, boy, do we have a treat for you. This is the time, Scott, so cue it up. This is the +2 takeaway has a new name, and the +2 takeaway has its own song, and it has its own look, and Scott is an amazing supporter in so many ways, and he helped me pre-produce this so we could actually do it as an insert to the show. So you're going to have a different look and a different feel and a great message, and here we go, right into that.
Here we go.
One, two, three, four, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine, 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with thoughts beautiful.
Let's shout about conversation already, right? We're having a conversation right now. I had a conversation today on the telephone with a real estate agent. Before that, I was typing a chat message with Susan Finch. And before that, I was having breakfast. I had to think about that one. What was I doing before that? And before that, I was having breakfast and having a conversation with Carter. Every single moment of every single day, we have the opportunity to really practice being present and in the moment and listening in conversation. There's an art to conversation, more than talking, more than headlines, more than the content for the audience. Yes, all that stuff matters. Realistically, though, your personality matters more. So if we are purposefully thinking about our content and we're purposefully putting together ideas that we know our target audience will love and appreciate, then what are we doing? We're thinking about them. We're bringing them into the realm of our conversation. We have a revolving door going on. Because in the old days, before there was this idea of the internet and that we could, before there was more than just talking on the telephone, pushing information out made sense. It's how people found out about us. It's how people came to ask us more questions. It's why salespeople making those calls and having those relationships did so well. Now, the art of sales is also changing, and in the event that sales, we're doing it with everything and every conversation we have. We need to keep thinking about that. And how does the way we listen, the way we ask questions, the way we approach a conversation help our sales funnel? So let's think about learning and networking. What can we do every single day to be present, have an opportunity to learn, and give back to other conversations. Because I've got to tell you, this revolving door is really cool to get business to come into you and to me. But if we're not out there going through other people's revolving doors and participating in their conversations, we're missing out. We're missing out on how other people converse, what people are looking for in the marketplace, how those people want to be treated. In fact, every conversation that we participate in, when it's not our conversation on our website or our platform or around our messages, is an opportunity for strategic learning and marketplace opportunity. So think about the art of conversation that way. The next time you're typing a little email, or you're on a chat, or you happen to just dial up a video call to say, hey, I wanted to give you a hug and see how your day was going. Every single one of those things matter. What are you doing to improve the art of your conversation?
$1 million like you hit the pay dirt. Gonna smile from ear to ear, the kind that makes your face hurt. And we'll laugh, jump, sing loud, not afraid to shout about being happy, living it out. Take a look and see a beautiful morning.
Okay, I really love that song. Woo! There it is, everybody. And they're going to all look like that. Well, that's not true. The beginning and the end will look like that. Who knows what's going to happen in the middle? And for those of you who are just tuning in, this is the Season 2 premiere of the Just Plus Scott Plus You show, and we are talking about the supreme unselfishness, putting ourselves first, which is the theme of the entire season and how we are going to weave all of our conversations that we have with stinking cool and awesomely amazing people throughout the next several months. Oh, Scott, I don't even know where to go. We have so much awesomeness still left, and I know we have chosen to have one more insert. Will you set it up for us? First of all, put your...
Thank you. Oh, bless you. Thank you. Okay, so I really enjoyed all of the contributions that our 7 or 8 audience members in our Hang Up contributed. We weren't able to get to all of them today, but this one was kind of fun because it was a little contrarian. Most people are at the end of the day saying, well, selfishness is actually good, but I think George Green had a different take on it. So we're going to transfer over to this final clip, and this will be fun to talk about.
And it's the difference between love and lust is if you're pursuing what you love, everybody wins ultimately. But if you're selfish, then you're lusting after an outcome. And that's the only thing that's important. So when we struggle with our purpose, our greater purpose, we've got to be able to understand that, you know, when I win, when I blaze a trail, everybody else is following behind me, and I'm taking my friends, my family, my tribe along with me for the ride.
While contrarian, I think that is a very spot-on comment. And the thought being is that we're really not alone. We are not alone in this world. So when we show up, how we choose to act, the things that we do, it comes back down to our choice. Who are we bringing with us? The people that we are choosing to surround ourselves with, and how can they benefit? I actually have a newer contact. His name is John O'Neill, and he introduced me to the concept of winfinity. And I know those of you who have heard me lately, I've said it before, and that is going to become, I really want a t-shirt that says it. It's going to become something that's just part of things, like the shout about. Winfinity! Because the idea being, what? That every action that we take for ourselves that also takes into account a greater purpose that we bring to the world and the gifts that we have to solve other people's problems and complete the world today, everybody gets to benefit from that. And those closest to us get to see it more than the people that we haven't met yet.
So it's as if the whole concept of selfishness is a place that you put yourself at a crossroads or at a fork in the road. And I don't think anyone is saying that selfishness is inherently good or inherently bad. It's what you overlay. It's the people that you surround yourself with and the relationship that you choose to have with them. And really, it's the motivation behind what 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 you're intending to do. This comes back a little bit back to what Ammon was saying as well. Just because someone amasses a lot of money and wealth. And also, not only that, but in so doing, they probably get the people skills and the organizational skills to be very effective. The question arises, what do you do with it? And nobody is going to be able to be very effective in this world if they don't take care of themselves first, if they don't uh, get those people skills, organizational skills, eat well, sleep well. It's all of the basics. It's nothing new under the sun. But to be selfish for yourself first, and then that's just the starting point. And, you shoot the gun and you're off on the marathon. You're doing your sprint, and what are you going to do with it? What is the ultimate proof that being selfish is the ultimate unselfishness for the ultimate good?
Do you want to know? Okay, I'm going to share a personal story here because I think it might be relevant to our individual journeys. Some, of course, as you, Scott, and me, Jess, and everybody that tunes in, but also the masculine and the feminine. And some of it could be what we learned growing up and the family patterns that we have. So here I am. I am a brand new mom, and I've got this baby, and this baby is crying, and I'm trying to calm this baby down, and I don't know what to do, and I'm hungry, and I haven't eaten, and I haven't showered, and God forbid, I also have to go to the toilet, and I just can't do it, so I break down and I cry. Baby's crying, I'm crying because all this stuff is going on. Ryan walks into the room, and he goes, "What's going on?" And I tell him everything, and he goes, "Carter can cry in the crib for a minute if you need to go do something so that you can be completely here for him. That's what I would do." And I'm like, "What do you mean? My baby's crying. I gotta help make sure my baby's not crying before I take care of myself." And he's like, "Oh no, honey, take care of you gotta take care of you so you can be strong and be there for others." So I share that story because I don't know if other people have similar experiences and if that crosses the masculine feminine, but it happened to in our house. It happened to be a total worldview difference. So I'm curious, Scott, have you ever been in a situation like that where you were completely one way and so the person opposite you was like totally the opposite?
Oh my gosh, I was thinking one. Well, I'll start off with where I thought you were going with it and see where it takes, because in my early 20s I didn't I was somewhat listless, and I was trying to figure out what to do, and I I can see. Well, you've thrown me a little bit because I'm trying to relate it back to your question, and I don't think.
Oh, don't even worry. Just start talking. Just start talking.
Yeah. But
well, how about this?
I'm going to toss it back to you.
Okay, I was going to say I'll take it right back over. So that's one of the neat things that I like about what this particular topic comes down to, because we have these things that are innately part of us. We have these things that are learned. We have these things that we've accepted as our truths. Yet when we peel all of that away, what's really left? And that's kind of a neat thing to find out. And I hope that we have enough neat conversations this season, and we continue to have these amazing, amazing conversations with people, both on the show and off the show, throughout all the different mediums that we are now communicating as a group, and really take the time to explore what that looks like and peel away just a little piece at a time. I know you like to say, pull back the curtain, right? Pull back the curtain on what's behind there. And I think that taking the time to explore that will be great fun. I think we might hit a nerve now and again, but in the end, if we provoke a conversation that helps us learn a little bit about ourselves so that we can show up more for everybody else, I think we've achieved our goal. What do you think, Scott?
I think so too, and we're purposefully going to be breaking a few rules, thanks to Phil's coaching and inspiration. There are a couple of areas that you're not supposed to get into on the plus. I don't know if we're going to get too terribly political, but there's also a little bit of a spiritual or metaphysical bent to what we're saying and what we're hoping to bring on the program. So I'm very excited to see it unfold with, and especially with some of the guests that are lined up and that we're hoping to line up as well. So this is a little bit of an introduction for the rest of the season, and really exciting to be back in the saddle and doing it one more time. And it's always a pleasure being in the same, well, I guess we don't have a film strip because it's just the two of us, but being on the same stage as you, Jess, it's just been wonderful. Thank you.
Hey, Scott, right back at you. Now I'm going to go to a quote from Ray Hiltz. Sometimes overgenerosity can be seen as a form of selfishness, a way of both drawing attention to yourself and deflecting, so you don't have to look too deep into actually who you are. There's some thoughts to ponder. And in the spirit of what we're trying to do, I have to stop because I had that on my brain. So now, Scott, I get to come back and say, thank you. I'm excited about this season too. Oh, that was not an intentional play on words, but I did catch myself. This season too. In addition to season also. All right, guys, I'm not an English person, so when I catch myself, I really crack myself up. Anyway, the grand scheme of things is Scott and I, we have a great amount of fun. And I want to know, Scott, where can we find you out there in the world?
Well, we're going to have a little bit of the, it's going to be repeated in the closing credits, but you can always find it's easy to remember the Scott treatment. So if you ever need to get in contact with me, just mosey on over to thescotttreatment.com, and there I'll be with examples of videos that are Hangouts on Air that are evergreen or that are somewhat like we've done tonight, cut up into small golden nuggets. And what about you? Where can people find you, Jess?
The easiest place is right here on Google+, or just do a search for Jessica Dewell on Google. I can tell you, even easier would be jessicadewell.com. It'll tell you everywhere I'm at, what I'm doing, all the things I have going on. So, want to say thank you for joining us tonight. I have 2 more little snippets to squeeze in before we do our closing. The first is my yogi tea bag. It is pertinent to tonight's conversation. Live light, travel light, spread the light, be the light. So my addition to that, find the light outside of you to bring in, or find the light inside of you to share out. In the end, it all comes out and we get to be connected to each other in that much of a stronger fashion. And I do want to end with a question that I will challenge all of you to think about and share somewhere in your social streams, whether it inspires you to write a blog post, whether it inspires you to share this event, whether it inspires a comment on YouTube or on the Google Plus event or on Twitter or on Facebook. Take a peek at this. How many businesses can base their thesis on their own morals? Any of these answers are divine. Thank you, Daniel Davis, for sharing that question and comment with us, and that's how we're going to end our program. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye-bye.